Hello again, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Makeshift Madness. Jim Ballou here, and in this episode we're going to be talking about clamping systems for camping and bushcraft. In the first Makeshift Madness video I ever created, I explained this device, which is a vise that I made and designed to exploit the constricting power of cord, and works really well for what it is. So here you have 2x2 square stock oak, and you've got it hinged here at the back side. I used a heavier duty hinge later. Originally in the first video it had a smaller hinge. There was a bit of looseness, so I beefed that up, and I've got a stop here for the tourniquet stick that, if you do it right, it'll stop, it'll hold it in position. I've got pieces of angle iron so it could be screwed down to a stump. I put grooves in the jaws, so you put your workpiece in there, clamp it down, you would just start twisting it up, and it would provide the clamping power, and then you would have your stop for your tourniquet stick. So here we see a close-up of how this tourniquet vise works, and for this segment I've cut a chunk of 2x6 and screwed it down to the 2x6, and as you can see, you've got your rope that goes through a hole right there, and it's tied off here into a loop, and you've got your jaws. And for the workpiece, I've cut a chunk of broom handle which will fit into the jaws, and then there we go. And the workpiece is very secure in that position. And the nice thing about this vise is that it's fairly compact, and you can keep the eye screws to mount it and everything together, and it will all fit into a stuff sack if you do it carefully and store it in your kit. Another example was just made out of 2x4s, same system. It's just, this is just a clamping device that you would clamp whatever you needed to clamp, and then you would, same situation, tourniquet, constricting power. There it is. It would hold, that would hold something very securely.
A lot of tasks involving the use of tools can be very awkward to execute without employing some type of vise or clamping system to firmly hold the workpiece being sawn, filed, or drilled. So I started pondering various ideas on creating a functional but portable camp toolkit vise. After searching numerous catalogs, local hardware stores, and on the internet, I found a relatively lightweight and inexpensive wood vise that looked like it might fit the bill, with just some minor modification. The product I found was designed to clamp onto a bench or table with a protruding mounting bracket underneath. But I wanted a unit that could instead be secured to the top of a stump or to a log. So with my angle grinder, I cut this protruding clamp bracket off to get it out of the way and also reduce bulk. And I decided to rely on 2 holes in the body of it through which I could screw the vise to the top of a stump. So here I've got the vise screwed down to the edge of a half log, and you'll see that I used eye screws and washers to secure it down, and it's very firm. And so if you're out in the woods and you needed to secure a workpiece, you could do it. You got a way to do it. It'll hold it. In 2008 and 2009, while I was working on this particular book for Paladin Press, and Paladin Press no longer exists, but this book is available from Prepper Press and on Amazon. But anyway, while I was working on this book, I had a chapter on clamping systems, for makeshift clamping systems. And so while I was working on it, my dad decided he would build a clamping device that I could feature in the book. And my dad came up with a really unique idea for a small clamp that you could use for maybe fly tying or whatever, but he decided to use some thick washers, and he put a bolt into here, and he's got it set into this post, and he's got a platform that could be screwed down to a table or to a log or stump. And the idea here is, if you wanted to secure something small, like for making a lure or whatever, you could just tighten it with the wing nut, and there you go. It'd be a pretty handy little clamping system. Using split branches or small half logs to create clamps and vices is an old idea with plenty of merit in applicable situations. Here we see a stick that's been split in two, and the two halves are lashed in alignment with a pivot stick between them, so that a wedge driven into one end provides clamping at the other end, in this case to hold strips of leather together for stitching. This sort of U-shaped bracket of steel is called a stake pocket, and it is made to be bolted to the side of a utility trailer, and especially a flatbed trailer, to create a rectangular hole into which either the base of a gate or railing could fit, or a tie-down stake could fit. But right now we are going to try using it in conjunction with a wooden wedge to create a makeshift vise. We'll screw it onto a stump using eye screws and flat washers, going through its existing mounting holes. So here I have this stake pocket screwed down to the top of a stump, and I'm going to attempt to use a wooden wedge. This wedge here I've made out of walnut, and I'm going to attempt to secure a branch into it such that I can cut the branch. Like, let's say I'm going to cut the branch maybe like right about there. Let's see if we can make things happen here. So fit that in a little bit, tap it in. Let's see if everything's solid. Yeah, let's see, maybe we can cut that branch right there. So that's one way to do it. A shaving horse is a type of vise used to grip normally long work pieces, such as a wooden bow stave that needs to be tillered using a draw knife. In this case, the clamping action is provided by a T-shaped head holding the workpiece in position with downward pressure on its foot treadle underneath the seat. This interesting little device is called a mainspring vise, and it was specifically designed to compress the V-shaped springs in muzzleloader weapon side locks to relieve the tension and allow the spring to be removed or replaced. So for example, here we have a lock removed from a rifle, a flintlock rifle, and we want to take the mainspring out of the lock. We would fit this mainspring vise on there, and we would just tighten it up, and it would relieve the tension, and we could just extract the spring. And here's what the mainspring would look like removed from the flintlock. And so here's a homemade one of these mainspring vices. Actually, my dad made this one, and you could see how it's slotted on the back, so the clamp jaw can slide up and down, and he's got this eye bolt, and so this thing is adjustable to the mainspring and works really well. Clamp it on there. And then you can just compress that spring. And here we see a reproduction of an antique mainspring vise. This is styled after what they would look like back you know, 1700s, 1800s, but it's a really practical vise system. And in this case, both jaws are movable, and it's just a screw that tightens it up. And so it's just a very simple concept. This could be applied to all kinds of other things. And here we've reached the end of another Makeshift Madness video. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Thank you so much for watching.